I had the chance to visit Six Flags America in Maryland on July 8th, 2025. Going back for as long as I can remember, this park has had a terrible reputation. This is definitely a legacy Six Flags park that is very much stuck in the late 90s and early 2000s. While there are some very redeeming qualities about this park, there are also a lot of downsides that I will go over in this review. Going right into it, I don't know if this is a normal occurrence or not at this park, but it was really shocking how beefed up they had the security here. Walking into the entrance area, there was a ton of security guards that were checking people in, looking at everybody's bags and stuff as they were going through. This process was pretty quick, and upon entering the park, you have this really nice colonial-style Main Street entrance area, which is surprisingly very nicely presented. Leading away from this Main Street area, you can veer off either right or left, which immediately takes you to the original section of the park, which predates the Six Flags days. The wooden coaster Wild One actually runs along what used to be the back of the park, but they eventually expanded the park beyond this, where you have Superman, Ride of Steel, Batwing, etc. The layout of this park, at least in this front area, right after you leave the main street, is actually pretty nice as well. Although, the theming is really not any theming at all. In all honesty, I'd kind of rather just see them focusing on making things look nice if they're not really going to do the theming, but I understand we're at a Six Flags park, so it kind of is what it is, especially for the time that this stuff was built. It is a little weird having the section that was added on later past Wild One, as it is extremely evident to me that they just added a path at some point and just kind of threw a bunch of rides down, even though it's not necessarily all terrible looking. But what was terrible looking at this park? Well, for one, there was a big outdoor theater which was nestled behind Wild One's lift hill in the Gotham City section of the park, and this theater looked like it hadn't been touched in about 10 years or so, and I would say it was a pretty big eyesore. You also had this sort of steampunk kids area or something along those lines that when I was there was just blocked off with some sort of gate, and there were just ride parts sitting out, and you could see this very clearly from the lift hill of Ride of Steel. Just does not look good at all. There was also a decent amount of rides closed, particularly in the Gotham City section, although as far as rides being closed, I guess it kind of makes sense with it being their last season on a Tuesday, and the fact that there was basically nobody here. But to wrap this section up, I'll just say, it doesn't look good having these old, essentially abandoned structures and areas just kind of sitting there. There's even a large turntable piece of an old Intamin log flume style ride called Skull Mountain that was just left standing over Wild One, and this ride closed all the way back in 2011. On the flip side, this park overall actually surprised me how nice it was kept up in many areas. As I mentioned previously, the Main Street entrance area left a great first impression. The Looney Tunes Kids area also looks really nice in my opinion, with a surprisingly decent amount of theming. And let's not forget Steamtown, which was actually a brand new revitalization of an old Western themed area in the park that debuted in the 2024 season. This area, although very simple, has really nice bright colored facades, a brand new ride, and a repainted SLC, and everything just looks really nicely tied together in this section. It pains me that we'll unfortunately never be able to see the improvements that could have been made around the park elsewhere. I feel that if they would have continued down this path with Six Flags America, in 5 or 10 years this could have actually been a pretty nice looking park. And unfortunately, we'll just never know what it would have looked like. Next up, ride operations. The ride operations here really weren't all that bad. Overall, a lot of the coasters were only running one train, but unlike Darien Lake, it was actually fine at this park because the operations were decent enough, and the crowds were also so low that having one train didn't hinder anything at all really. I think the longest I waited may have been for the first ride of the day, which was Firebird, and I only waited maybe a few minutes for that. And I have to say, for a park that's about to be closing, a lot of the staff here actually seemed like they cared about what they were doing and put some effort into it, so nice job done there. Let's talk about food quick. When I went to Six Flags America, I bought the single day meal plan and I ate a Philly cheesesteak sandwich, which was actually really good. The fries were okay, but basic. Later on, I also ate at a Chop 6, which is essentially Six Flags' take on a Panda Express. This was pretty good as well, fairly comparable to a Panda Express. No complaints here for me. Overall, the food here seems to be decent enough, which admittedly was a surprise to me, although I didn't get to try a lot of things here. And most importantly, let's talk about the rides here. This is a bit of a mixed bag. Overall, Six Flags America has a pretty good lineup of coasters and thrill rides. However, their lineup has remained stagnant for the better part of about 25 years or so. The last brand new ground up coaster built here was Batwing in 2001. The newer coasters here were relocations from Six Flags Great America, which opened at Six Flags America in 2012 and 2014. That being said, this lineup of coasters here, while including many very solid, fun coasters, feels extremely dated for a Six Flags park, pretty much as if this park is frozen in 2000. This is probably not a great thing when it came time for Six Flags corporate to ultimately make the decision to shutter this park. For my final thoughts on Six Flags America, it's definitely a shame that this park will be closing. While this park was severely held back from the lack of investment, it's sad to see any park close, especially one on this scale that really did have a lot of potential in my opinion. And I imagine it's probably a huge loss for many of the locals too. This park also has quite a fascinating history, in my opinion as well. I'm not going to get into that here, I'll let you look into it. And as much as I'd hate to admit it, I don't think any of the coasters here are going to be saved. I think you're going to see a couple rides being relocated to other parks, especially some of the newer rides that they've received over the last few years. But for rides like Superman Ride of Steel and Wild One, this is going to be such an immense loss to the coaster world. These were good rides that were also very historic or just a big staple in coaster history. I'm glad I had the opportunity to visit this park for just one time and I got to experience many of the coasters that were here. The day I was here, Roar was unfortunately closed, so I never got to experience this old school GCI, and Batwing had also closed the day before due to a big incident that actually spelled the end for this ride, well before the end of the season, which in effect means the Vekoma Flying Dutchman model is extinct. Let me know your thoughts on Six Flags America in the comments, and just go ahead and share some of your memories of this park over the years. Did you hate it? Did you think it deserved the reputation as one of the worst parks in America? Or did you think it was severely overhated and actually had a lot of good redeeming qualities? I would say I fall a little bit further into the latter category. I think it was overhated, but it definitely did have a lot of shortcomings that I believed would have been addressed in the future had the new Six Flags given this park a chance. Thanks for watching. This is Coaster Daddy. Bye.